Let's look back at last night's Spurs win over the Grizzlies and also preview tonight's game, Spurs Thunder, and then ask who's sticking around.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, we're on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Happy hump day, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great midweek, work week, getting through it. We'll help you right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, including iTunes, Spotify, even the Ken's 5 Plus app. We are everywhere. Seriously, just pick a platform and we are there. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to look back at yesterday's Spurs-Grizzlies game. Spurs came out on top, and then quickly look at tonight's game, Spurs-Thunder. Then bring in our guest, AP Sports Radio's very own Raul Flores. We'll be discussing which players will be sticking around next season, and then talk about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans, and the comments you are leaving. But first, about last night, Spurs got the W over the Grizzlies, beating them 102-87. 20th win, not the worst team in NBA in Spurs history. Yay! There's a silver lining right there on the season. The Spurs are now up at 20-59, just a few games left. The Spurs, Victor Wembanyama, 18 points, 7 rebounds. Champagnie, 17 points in the win. Zach Collins had 5. Malachi had 10. Blake Wesley had 13. As y'all know, Spurs did not have Osman, Johnson, Sohan, and Vassell, but nevertheless, they took care of business. At least the takeaway number one, Spurs taking care of business. This is a Spurs team that is kind of rolling right now late in the season, and on paper should beat Memphis, and they did. They took care of business. It got a little scary in the first half, and it was kind of nip and tuck, but I liked how the Spurs just pretty much put away the Grizzlies in the second half. So yay, Spurs. I like that they were the better team. Wemby wasn't really needed that much. So, and the Spurs even got the other players to get out there, like the G League players, like City Sissoko got some run, Raycon Gray got some run. So I like to see that. So yeah, takeaway number one, Spurs handled business and took care of Memphis easily. Takeaway number two, Spurs still played by turnovers. Sure, they only had 16, not like 20 plus we saw in a double overtime loss to the Sixers, but nevertheless, 16 turnovers. This has been an issue for the Spurs all season long. It's not a recent thing. That continues to be an issue. That's something they can clean up, hopefully, in the last 3 games of the season and carry that over into the new season. But yeah, again, turnovers were an issue, especially in that first half. That's the big reason why the Grizzlies were to be able to stay in the game. So yeah, got to clean up the turnovers. Still something they got to address. That's takeaway number 2. Final takeaway, Mamu, Sandro, big guy. 11 points and 16 rebounds in the win versus Grizzlies. And what I like about that is that he is making a strong case for him to stick around next season. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But I liked his aggressiveness. I like that European style play that he jives with Wemby. Those two had an instant connection. He spoke about it after the game via Bally Sports that he feels a lot comfortable with Wemby because of that he believes that it's their European background, European style of basketball background. And I think that could lend him perhaps to continue on with the roster next season. So yeah, 11 points, 16 boards. Sure, maybe his defense can be suspect at times, but I like what I saw out of him. And look, I'm not to say that Wemby had a great game. Obviously he can be a takeaway for any single game this whole season, but you got to tip your cap to Mamu, really showing what he can do for the Spurs. Hopefully the Spurs won't utilize him as trade bait or whatnot, or just waive him, what have you. But yeah, really good outing from Mr. Mamu. But the Spurs do have another game tonight versus the Thunder. Yep, big game, second game of back-to-back. Let's quickly preview that. So again, y'all know the Spurs are coming off the win versus Memphis, 20-59 tonight. Thunder are 54-25. And for those of y'all that are in Jersey Watch, the Spurs will be wearing their Statement Edition jerseys tonight. So quickly, we always like to start off with the opposition. The Thunder have won 3 straight games versus the Spurs at home. OKC is not kind to the Spurs of late. Spurs got to snap that losing skid. on the road versus OKC. Hey, look, the Spurs snapped a 13-game losing skid versus Memphis yesterday night. Hopefully they can snap this 3-game losing skid on the road versus OKC. Thunder take care of business versus teams that have a below 500 record. The Thunder are 25-7 with teams below 500. So hopefully the Spurs will not be another victim to that. But yeah, Thunder really know how to put away teams that are not at their level. Keep an eye on the 3-point line from OKC. The Thunder have made 11 or more 3-pointers in 2 straight games. They had 18 in the recent win versus Sacramento. Got to defend that 3 line. As for your Spurs, as mentioned, they are the second game of a back-to-back. They're not that great tonight. Now, Popovich did allude after the win versus Memphis that they're going to debate whether or not to play Wemby. Won't help if they decide to rest him. I'm pro shut him down for the season. But the Spurs are 2-10 on the second game of a back-to-back. That's not good. And, of course, you got the Thunder tonight, even worse for the Spurs. We mentioned the Thunder's record against teams with below 500. You may ask, well, what are the Spurs against teams with an above 500 record? Well, they're 10-41. So that doesn't bode well for the Spurs tonight. Hopefully the Spurs are, use this kind of late season momentum. They're kind of clicking right now, even without key players out with injury. Hopefully they'll get a big win tonight versus the Thunder. All right, there's your quick Thunder Spurs preview. Coming up next, we got Raul Flores of the AP Sports Radio. We're going to be discussing the fringe players, those players that may or may not be a part of the Spurs, a long-term future that are currently on the roster. We're going to discuss their potential staying on the San Antonio roster next season, and then discuss you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans, and your comments. But first, I want to talk to you about GameTime. You want to go to GameTime.co right now, everybody. Look, tickets, when you buy them, it shouldn't be complicated, right? That's where GameTime kicks in. GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace with the Major League Baseball, which makes even getting tickets even that much faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from receipts, and the lowest price guaranteed. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Look, last-minute ticket deals. What else they got? Flash deals, zone deals. They got the lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. You can find every ticket for any kind of event in your area. And again, easy to find and buy MLB tickets. You want those zone deals? Okay, so you can save even more money when you choose the section and then like GameTime choose the seats. You want all-in pricing, toggle. They have a feature that lets you toggle that shows you the total up front, no surprise fees at checkout. You want the lowest price guaranteed? Well, GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. And flash deals, you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And last-minute deals, exactly. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever event is in your area. Yeah, gotta love those last-minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I also want to talk to you about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's in the 281 and 1604 area. They serve the best tasting coffee and drinks in San Antonio. You need a latte, they got it. You need a cold brew, they got it. You need a coffee, like their signature drink called the Muslinger, they got that too. What about mini donuts? They got that too. They even sell out. That's how great they are. They're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and a proud community member serving San Antonio. The best coffee are in these parts. Again, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And what else they got? Oh, yeah. They got signature drinks like the Alien, which is honor of Wemby, which is part of the Lightning Bolt series. And speaking of that, they're changing the recipe for the Lightning Bolts. They started using Lotus Energy instead of Red Bull. So that has a similar caffeine effect with Red Bull, but this has 7 power plant extracts. It gives you more flexibility. It gives them more flexibility to create new drinks. They still got Red Bull available if you want it, but the default will be Lotus. Their Lightning Bolt line includes the Alien, as mentioned. That's made with Lotus Energy. Combining natural caffeine with the powerful blend of 7 plant extracts, the new and improved Lightning Bolts will keep you powered up all day. What more do you need, San Antonio? Go there right now, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Follow them on social media at Muslinger SATX. Follow them right now. The best drinks in San Antonio, proud local sponsor. They love serving San Antonio community. What more do you need? Go to Muslinger's drive-through coffee right now because life is too short for bland coffee. And we are now joined by a good friend of Locked On Spurs. He is Raul Flores. Make sure to follow him on X at Raflo64. He is with the AP Sports Radio and pretty much the encyclopedia of all things Spurs history. Seriously. You were there at the groundbreaking of Hemisphere Arena, weren't you?
Yeah, well, yeah, actually, I went to Hemisphere when the World's Fair was here.
Oh, yeah.
And in 1968. So, yeah, so I was there when Hemisphere was built, and then was at the first game in 1973 when the Spurs played the San Diego Conquistadors, coached by Wilt Chamberlain.
Wow, that is some history there. You know, I'm old enough to remember Hemisphere, and I'm also I made the cut. I still remember the monorail cutting across Hemisphere Park.
Yeah.
I still remember it.
Yeah.
Everybody, San Antonio used to have a monorail cutting across downtown. Not kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the last few interesting enough, one of the last few buildings left from Hemisphere 68 outside of the tower, obviously, is the Institute of Texan Cultures, which UTSA has announced that they are going to raise. You know, I think there's a lot of behind closed doors meetings going on, and what's going to happen with that land, and you know, it's probably going to end up being the Spurs' new home sometime in the future. You know, the house that Wemby built.
Literally, it's going to be the house that Wemby built. But yeah, I think the Spurs have about like another 8 years left on their lease at the Frost, so it'll be a while, everybody. So
but you can get out of those. So those, you know,
for sure.
There's ways around it. Then, you know, let the legal guys take care of that. You know, my vision was for that corner there at Cesar Chavez and 37. That would be that corner would be home plate, and center field would be the Tower of the Americas, and then a little bit farther down or a little bit farther west on Cesar Chavez, you could build a basketball arena where the John Wood courthouse is right now. There's enough land there to have a baseball field and a basketball arena, but I think they're talking about the basketball arena going where the Institute of Texan Cultures building is, which would eliminate my dream of seeing the Tower of the Americas, you know, just beyond center field of a baseball field there.
That would be a great view. You know, when they announced that they're gonna pretty much, you know, sell the land where the Texas Institute is, for a minute there, I thought they were gonna start building your penthouse. That's what it was for. Your penthouse downtown.
Yeah. Well, you know, the
Raul Tower.
If they have suites in the new basketball arena, you know. I could never afford it.
All right. Well, what are we here to talk about with Raul? Basically, the roster. So we all know the season is all but over. Just a few more games, and that's all she wrote. But the Spurs offseason will be interesting because this is where the real fun begins. You know, forming that roster around Wemby, moving forward with the rebuild, who's staying, who's going. Look, we pretty much know the usual suspects, more likely than not, will be staying. Your Vassell's, Sohan, etc. But Keldon, right? But those
that guy named Victor, I think they're going to keep him.
I think so, unless you're a free agent, Raul, then they have to really think about swapping out there.
Yeah, they'd have to decide between me and Victor because, you know.
Exactly. Two dominant forces. Who do they take? But when looking at the roster, you know, there's likely going to be some turnover heading into the new season, 24-25. Raul, which fringe players do you think will be sticking around? Which do you think are making their case to stick on with the Spurs Wemby rebuild?
You know, I was looking at the roster, and obviously, you know, Keldon, Victor, Trey, Devin, Jeremy, and Malachi and Blake, I think, they're right on that fringe, but
Yeah.
I think Pop just likes those two guys.
Mhm.
They're definitely interchangeable. Blake's speed, Malachi has speed. They both have
Mhm.
decent ball handling skills. They tend to turn the ball over, but that's to be expected from second year players. But their jump from year one to year two this year was leaps and bounds,
For sure.
and I think they've both made a case for sticking around. So what the Spurs decided to do with those two guys, they're under contract through 25, 26, so they've got 2 more years each. Matt Branham costs you about $1 million more than Blake. They're like 6.2 and 5.2, something like that.
Right.
So it doesn't hurt the bank to keep them around. I don't see either one of them, being the main guy bringing the ball up the court. So we'll see what happens with those two. The other guys, I'd love to see Chetty Osman stick around.
Yeah.
He just, what he brings. There's a lot of intangibles that he brings. Leadership. He's a little bit older. He's
For sure.
28, 29.
Yeah,
He'll be
old
29.
Raul. He's old.
Yeah. Well, by Spurs roster standards, yeah, he's a little bit older. But I see him probably going away this summer. He's a free agent. The other guy that's not under contract is Sandro Mamukelashvili. And I think he's definitely made a case for a roster spot. But and the thing that I like about Mamu is that he creates space. He can stand out on the perimeter, and he can pop that 3-pointer. He's a good ball handler. You'll see him bring the ball up the court, pretty often, and he can bang bodies inside. He's a little bit of liability defensively, especially against quicker power forwards or or small forwards. His foot speed, leaves a little bit to be desired, but he's one of those that just, he's fun to watch. He brings a lot of energy to the court, and he gets the other guys fired up. And we've seen a lot more of him here in the latter part of the season. With Devin out and Jeremy out, and anytime that Zach gets into foul trouble, they'll bring in Mamu, and so he's been a lot of fun. I'd love to see him stick around, but if you're already talking about, you're going to have one number 1 draft pick for sure. It's a lottery pick, and if Toronto falls to 7 through 10 with that pick, you're talking about 2 potential first round, top 10 picks. That's 2 spots right there that you've already got to clear up on the roster. So what does that do? And then you've got Charles Bassey coming back. You've signed him to a 3-year contract. There's still 2 years left on his contract. And he's that big body that you need defensively. Offensively, the Spurs aren't hurting. You've got Wemby giving you 20 points, Devin just below 20 points, and Keldon right at 15. So you're talking about 55 points right there. I see Wemby's numbers going up next year. I see Devin's numbers going up. So if you get 60 points from those 3 guys right there, your offense is off to a good start. So now you've got, guys like Zach Collins and Bassey that are just going to be defensive stoppers, bang bodies, and give you, 7 to 8 points a game, but lots of rebounds, banging the boards.
For sure. I'm sorry. Anyone out there? Oh, but a couple things. One, real quickly, my player that I think is making their stake to stay on is Devonte Graham. Instant offense. I mean, this guy can get cooking like that. Can spread the floor. He knows how to pass to Wemby. I mean, it didn't take him that much to think of it. Just what a good guy. Yeah. There's connection there. Floor spacer for Wemby, veteran. But another reason why I think he'll stick around even temporarily is because he has an expiring contract.
Right.
He's going into his final contract year next year.
Yeah.
So if the Spurs still want to retool at the end of the trade deadline next season, he'd be an interesting piece to dangle out there if they want to make a deal mid-season. But I'm hearing what you have to say. Do you think there's a chance that this team could run it back? Do you think they could?
Pretty close to what they have right now.
It's close, yeah.
Again, with a lottery pick this coming year and a potential second top 10 pick,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you know, you have to have those two spots available. The other guy that I think has made a strong case for sticking around is Julian Champagny. And I know he's tied up in contract all the way through 26, 27. But, you know, he's brought a lot to the Spurs, gotten a lot of minutes here lately, again, with the injuries to Sohan. You know, his numbers aren't super fantastic. I expected a lot more out of him this year coming into this season. After watching him last season, I don't know that he lived up to my personal expectations, but I think, you know, with what the Spurs saw in him, they could definitely see. But getting back to Graham, he's definitely one of those pieces where he's probably going to get a lot more minutes going into next season to showcase, so that when the trade deadline does come around, you know, I don't think that he's part of a long-term plan.
No, I don't think so.
You know, again, he's you know, he's older compared to the roster. He's 29 as well. But I love the excitement. He's a great locker room guy. His attitude for a guy of his caliber to take that seat on the bench and not fuss or complain all this season. And you know, maybe the Spurs told him, hey, you know, we're still trying to rebuild here, and we need a couple of more high draft picks. Not that he was going to give them, you know, another 20 wins this season, but you know, I think had he been in the starting lineup, the Spurs are probably at about 35 wins this year. And then that leaves you in that, you know, you're on the bubble to make the playoffs, and you're not bad enough to, you know, get a high draft pick.
Right.
So I think they didn't play him on purpose. Going into next year, once the rebuild is into, now it's third year, second year with Wemby, you know, Devonte can showcase a little bit, and then come trade deadline, they move him to a team that's, you know, probably a contender at that point. So we'll see what happens.
And quick shout out to Devonte, because you watch him during the games, especially all season long when he wasn't getting playing time, you know, very supportive of his teammates with a smile, clapping, laughing, even giving instructions to some of the guys on the sidelines during timeouts.
He was the Patty Mills, you know.
He was the Patty Mills, right?
Twirling the
Patty Mills. And then when he gets minutes, he drops 20 plus, you know, just like
well, he shows you what he can do. And you know, he's a veteran. You know, a great spot up shooter, great ball handler, great facilitator. You know, I'd hate to see him go. I'd love to see him on the team, but I think, you know, I think the Spurs are definitely going to be looking at a point guard in the draft this year, and that moves Trey Jones to, you know, to coming off the bench as the backup, or Trey Jones starts and whoever they bring in is the backup. To that point guard.
You
know,
and barring a veteran player they trade for, if they draft a point guard, I definitely see Trey Jones starting, because I don't know if you trust a rookie point guard, unless this kid's phenomenal and just lights it up in training camp. But in this draft, I don't think you do that. You have him backing up Trey Jones in that case.
Trey Jones starts the season, and then we see where it goes from there. You know, then again, you know, I'm interested to see where Bassie is going to fit into the lineup, and then obviously you've got guys like Dominic Barlow, who again, he's another one like Champagny. I expected a little bit more out of him this year, you know, in his minutes, and you know, he's a he's a piece. He's just a piece. He's not going to be your starter.
Right.
He's not going to give you 20 and 10, but he's definitely going to be. And then obviously you've got the other two-way player, Sidi Sissoko. Interested to see what they do with him. I've kind of kept up with him a little bit in Austin. Some nights he looks great in Austin, and other nights he just kind of looks average.
He looks average, yeah, exactly. But Dominic Barlow is interesting for me because very athletic. I think he's coming out of his raw phase. Looks a little bit more put together at this point of his career. I'd like for him to stick around. I think he will, because of the energy provides. And, I was a little stunned, very quiet. Yeah. I spoke to him about going to the G League All-Star event in this past All-Star break. And he said, I'm going because that's not really my style for all that attention thing, but I was just stunned a little bit because how, these guys, the young guys, they crave, the spotlight, and he was like, nah, I'm good. But I think he fits the Spurs system well, and he knows his role. That's the most important thing, Raul.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So back to your question. Yeah, the team could look very much like it did this past year. With the exception of a couple of draft picks. I just don't see the Spurs signing any big name free agents. I know that there's some good names out there. Tyus Jones is going to be an unrestricted free agent. That'd be interesting to team him up with Trey.
His brother.
Brother,
that'd be interesting.
Brother and brother. Nicholas Batum is 36, something like that, but still can show that he can play. And might be a good fit. For some veteran leadership. But I think the Spurs proved this year. Record aside, that they're pretty energetic, with Devonte and Chetty being, those veteran leaders that they need. And then, we can't forget that, you've got Tim out there at the practice facility working out with these guys. You've got Manu out there working with these guys on a regular basis. So they're getting that veteran leadership, in other ways.
But also too, even LaMarcus Aldridge has been spotted as practice, and not Boris. Well, Boris Dio once in a while, but more thinking of Gorgie Dang. Yeah. He's done latched on as a coach now. He's kind of doing the Becky Hammond track. Just hey, can I help out kind of thing. And that's what he's doing. So they got veteran presence. But all in all, it looks like the Spurs, although we're looking at a rebuild, some of these fringe players could be sticking around because they're definitely making a case for themselves as the season winding down. Hey, we're not winding down yet. When we get back, we're going to continue our chat with Raul Flores of the AP Radio. Follow him on X at RawFlow64. We're going to be discussing you guys. Yep, you guys are next. You guys are leaving a lot of comments. What are y'all talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page? That's next right here on Locked On Spurs. This show episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. You want to go to BetterHelp right now and give online therapy a try. They got it all there. If you're thinking about giving BetterHelp a try because you want to address some things that you need off your chest, they are the place to go. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA and get on your way to being your best self. Hey, look, sometimes it's good to get things off your chest, especially to somebody who's unbiased in your life. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Whether it's big or small, certain things can really get to you. So it's important to let that out. So if you really want to get something off your chest, if you really want to maybe even ask them how to improve things that you're already doing better, that's where BetterHelp can help you. And look, I get it. Spurs are not having a good season. It's kind of a down season record-wise. Sure, there's Wemby, but, you wanted the Spurs to do a lot better. But, hey, there's things that are bigger than basketball. That's where BetterHelp can come in. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team. It's important to get those things off your chest every once in a while. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible, suitable for your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Get yourself 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. And we are back right here on Locked On Spurs with Raul Flores, the AP Sports Radio. Following him on X at Raflo64. You got to follow him because you don't want him mad. He turns into Hulk. Like, you don't want to see him when he's angry. So you got to give him a follow.
Look at these arms, man. it ain't happening.
By the way, is that a new poster I see behind you, or is that just my eyes deceiving me?
No, I've got one. Which one? The Young Guns?
Yeah. I don't think I've seen that one. Or maybe I have.
Let me pull it real quick.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
This one is
that's I think if that's look
Willie
at that.
Anderson, David Robinson,
Nice.
and Sean Elliott.
That looks like a great album cover. That's what it looks like.
That one was a CarQuest poster. CarQuest.
That's right.
Plug in for CarQuest.
You can go into any mechanics store shop in San Antonio, and you'll see old school posters of the Spurs.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. The sponsorships were so different back then.
Yeah, they were.
I know that I think it was HEB that redid the Gerben one.
Yeah, the Gerben one. Yeah.
Several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think for like the 25th anniversary or 30th anniversary, something like that. They brought back that Gerben poster.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah, you got a great collection. You told us a story about your moment with the Chicago Bulls and with Michael Jordan and the autograph. I told that to somebody recently. I forgot who it was at one of the games. I said, "Hey, Raul told me a story about this," and they were like, "What? Like he has that?" I was like, "Yeah, he does."
That was crazy.
That's amazing.
And on the back of your credential, it says, no photographs, no autographs.
Yeah, autographs. Yeah.
So you're always leery to take anything like that. At that time, I was probably 23 years old, something like that.
Yeah. I would have said like you didn't seek it out. Yeah,
24.
You didn't seek out the autograph.
I didn't seek it out. They handed it.
They gave it to you. So there's a big difference. Yeah. All right. Hey, well, let's talk about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans. You guys are leaving a lot of comments. Wish we could stay here all day. You're looking at them, but we can't. So we just pick out two. And surprise, Raul, it's all about Wemby and DPOY. Well, kind of. The first one is still about the DPOY, but they have a question. So the first one is from Tom Fitterer. Hope I got that right. He goes, I like how they always bring up a winning record. He's referring to Wemby likely not getting the DPOY because of the Spurs' poor record. Right. But Tim Duncan was always on a top team and never won one DPOY. Thank you for that comment, Tom Fitterer. What are your thoughts about that? Why do you think Timmy never won the DPOY?
That one's tough. That's a head scratcher because he was, he was on the all-defensive team 15 years.
Yeah.
15 seasons. 8 first-team appearances, and it's kind of crazy that he didn't make it. But
I was stunned too, that he never wanted, I tell you, I have a story too. I remember talking to Zach Collins the day before his draft. So it's pre-draft day. And I spoke to him and I said, what do you thought about the Spurs? Have you ever worked out with the Spurs? And he said, no, I didn't get to work out with them. He goes, but I want to throw this out there. Zach Collins, pre-NBA days, still a lottery bound, told me that how criminal it was that Tim Duncan never won the DPOY. He used the word criminal, and I agree with him. It's insane that he never got it. But I think that is just one of the biggest knocks.
And it's sports writers who select it. And so a lot of times, the Spurs aren't a big market, so a lot of games weren't, and at that time Spurs got a lot of national games, not as many as the bigger markets. But a lot of these sports writers would see him, especially if they're from the East, they're only going to see him twice a year if they travel to San Antonio. Otherwise, they're just seeing him, in the East. And so, you don't see a player enough. And it's easy to look up stats. It's easy to look up videos, but a lot of these guys just don't. And, they go based on what they've seen throughout the year. And so it just, I was going to call up, I was trying to remember who won Defensive Player of the Year. All the years that Tim Duncan could have and
Yeah,
didn't.
I think Ben Wallace won it. Who else won it? Ooh, Shaq, I think, won it. Maybe. I think I know for sure Ben Wallace got it. I think that was that when Ben Wallace got it, I think the first time a lot of people thought that Timmy was robbed. So
let's see here. Tim Duncan. Okay, so you had Alonzo Mourning in 99, 2000.
Yeah.
Dikembe Mutombo, Ben Wallace, Metta World Peace, Ben Wallace twice again, Marcus Camby, Kevin Garnett, Dwight Howard 3 years in a row, Tyson Chandler. That was already 2012. Marc Gasol, Joakim Noah.
Jeez.
and then Kawhi Leonard twice.
Of course. Giving more Spurs fans reason to not like Kawhi, right?
Exactly.
But there you have it. It's still baffling till today that Timmy never won that award. Thank you, Tom, for that comment. The next one, but he's got 5 rings, in the Hall of Fame, so he's good. So the next comment is, I wonder if this is a joke parody in a name. Matt Goring, that's also the name of the person who created The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what that is. But Matt left a comment here saying, and regarding the DPOY and Wemby, Raul, says, try winning a game. When has an award ever been given to someone on a horrible team? So this Spurs fan, Matt, he thinks that Wemby's just not going to win it ultimately because of the Spurs record. Do you think that's ultimately what's going to doom Wemby in the chase for the DPOY? Because the numbers are just staggering defensively. If the numbers talk, then he wins it.
He's putting up numbers that what we've rarely seen. Especially for a rookie, what he's able to do. But he's just so long that blocks are a little bit easier for him than me and you. And
really, I thought they're easy for you.
Yeah, no.
Okay, sorry.
I wish. But I think I was reading where the fewest wins by Defensive Player of the Year was maybe 35. Rudy Gobert was on a team that won 35 games, and he won Defensive Player of the Year. If Spurs notch another couple of wins, they'll be at 20 wins. Did they give it to him with 20? I think what's going to happen is they're going to figure, well, he's going to get Rookie of the Year. Let's give Defensive Player of the Year to somebody else. But numbers wise, he's got more block shots this year than Rudy Gobert has the last 2 years combined.
Right.
I think he's sitting at like 235, somewhere around there. And Gobert has 229 the last 2 seasons. So, and I know it's more than just block shots, but he disrupts so many shots. Even if he doesn't get the block, he disrupts shots. He forces, the person driving to the basket to second guess and kick the ball out for totally different shot than what the ball handler was planning. And everybody that I've interviewed post game, that you watch film, you see him on highlights or whatever. They say, up close and personal, it's just totally different. It's just he's tall, he's big, he just disrupts, and and so I won't be surprised either way because I can see an argument for both.
Right. I think when the media votes or just the overall votes are released, I think it's going to be close. I mean, Vegas has the race super close right now. They still have Rudy winning it, but I mean, Victor is right on his heels if you're going with betting odds. But you players are saying that he should get it. Draymond Green is saying he should get it. Major sports media heads are saying that he should get it. Some are even saying that Wemby's making it tough for them, to go ahead and just say, okay, Rudy, Gobert, you get it. But I think for me, the biggest tell that he should get it is that on-off stat defensively for the Spurs. When he's off, the Spurs are one of the worst defensive teams in the league. When he's on, they're one of the best. And to me, that just seals it for me. I mean, if you're looking at individual impact defensively, that proves it. Rudy Gobert Minnesota doesn't really drop off too much.
Yeah, and outside of the the blowout losses, the Spurs have been in just about every game. They've been competitive in every game. And Pop mentioned it this week. Is the team because they're so young, they don't know how to respond to defensive pressure. Against Philadelphia the other night, they take them to double overtime, and Philadelphia took it up a notch in that second overtime and really pressured the ball handler and really made it an effort to keep the ball out of Wemby's hands. Wemby didn't, there were 3 straight possessions where Spurs were down by 1 or 2, and they could not get the ball into Wemby's hands. And it resulted in a turnover or a missed shot. And Pop was talking about how, on the offensive end, the team just isn't responding quite the way he'd like them to that hard defensive pressure. So they're losing games on the offensive end, even though they're staying in games. It's definitely on the offensive end where they're losing it, because defensively they're like you said, Wemby's in there. They're one of the top 3 defensive teams in the league.
And when he's off, we know what the result is. The Spurs are horrific defensively. All right. There you have it. You guys leaving a lot of comments. Keep that up at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Raul, before we let you go, what's going on in your world? What do you have going on at the AP Sports Radio?
We're just winding down the season. I'll be at the Detroit game next Sunday night, the final game of the season. We'll see. I heard some comments saying that Wemby was going to shut it down for the season. And, he responded by saying that, he owes it to the fans to give them, as much playing time as he can. But I think you'll see kind of his numbers a little limited, his minutes a little limited, and give some of the younger guys, and
especially with the injury bug hitting the Spurs late in the season, don't want anything to happen to Wemby.
Exactly.
Yeah. You want to follow Raul on X at RawFlow64. You see it on your screen too right now. Again, he's like Bruce Banner. You don't want to get him mad. He'll turn into the Hulk if you don't follow him on X. I mean, just look at him. We have to use a special lens just to fit Raul into he's so huge.
Yeah,
he's so
my big head, my big fat head. Yeah. No, but thanks for everything you do, Jeff. You've done a great job this season. Just keeping fans informed with what's going on with the Spurs. As always, you just do a fantastic job.
Thank you, and likewise. I mean, I've leaned on you for some advice and throughout the season, so I appreciate you as well. Hey guys, we'll be back tomorrow with more Spurs news and notes and topics as the season winds down. Check out Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel only on YouTube. Subscribe today. So for Raul the Hulk Flores, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.